morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
I am sure glad you could join us and ride along today as we are halfway through our 33rd year of coming out of your radio. And it's time to bring you the best of 2025. A busy year, lots of great hours in the saddle, lots of gathers, brandings, roundups, some fairly long drives, and no serious wrecks, some really enjoyable road trips with the Western Spirit Band, and the year had a great start. When Pat Switzer, who's been active in the cutting horse world for a long time, put me in touch with a 15-year-old fella who had just returned from the NCHA World Championship cutting competition in Fort Worth, Texas. One of the youngest competitors ever. So thanks to Pat for putting us in touch with Aidan Gagne. He was too young to have a driver's license, so his folks drove him up to the ranch, and boy was he a breath of fresh air in today's world. He was featured on the first two shows of the year, and you'll hear how some of it went after the first song you heard here in 2025. It was from the son of the legendary late Chris Ledoux. This is Ned Ledoux.
Remember how it felt, throwing caution to the wind, hanging on a ragged edge. Now it's coming back again. To feel a cold sweat trickle down, hot blood in your veins, a little past your prime. The rush is still the same. You carry it on with pride, a passion that burns inside, a love that you just can't hide. The only thing you live for is to make that perfect right. You're not proving nothing to nobody, just a man down deep inside. You carry on, you carry on, you carry on your cowboy life. Is the highway, morning sun and bloodshot eyes. Through all the aches and pain, the hunger's still alive. A blink of total silence as they open up the gate. In perfect time and balance, giving all that you can take. You carry it on with pride, a passion that burns inside, a love that you just can't hide. When the only thing you live for is to make that perfect right. You're not proving nothing to nobody, just a man down deep inside. You carry on, you carry on, you carry on your cowboy life. No, it ain't for the money, though money has its place. Guess it's just a feeling of being in the race, out beyond the limit, where you've never been before. And when it all comes together, that's what you're riding for. Passion that burns inside, a love that you just can't hide. When the only thing you live for is to make that perfect right. You're not proving nothing to nobody, just a man down deep inside. You carry on, carry on, you carry on your cowboy life.
It was sure refreshing to visit with 15-year-old performance horse competitor Aidan Gagne on the first two shows of this year, and some of the first one went like this. Do you do any other sports now, or is it all just the horses?
Nope, that's all I do is horses.
Yeah.
You know,
Takes the whole time.
I really like watching cowboy movies and doing that. Like during the winter here, when it gets dark real early, you know, I'll kind of hang out and watch a movie or something with Grandpa and Grandma.
Yeah.
I think I just finished Lonesome Dove for 4th or 5th time.
Really?
Yeah, and just watched All the Pretty Horses for the 3rd time.
Wow, I haven't seen that for a long time.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah,
and Monty Walsh, that's another good one that I like.
Yeah, there was 2 versions of that. I think first version had Lee Marvin in it, and Tom Selleck, I think, was in the remake.
Yeah,
but I
that's
actually
the one I watched.
I've got it on a DVD here somewhere. I like that better than the first one almost. The first one was great.
Yeah.
But the second one I thought was just terrific. There's that bronc ride down the sidewalk and back and forth. That was one of the greatest scenes I think they ever filmed. Oh man. Are you into Yellowstone?
You know, I've seen it. Mom and Dad are really into it. I mean, I watch it. Not accurate whatsoever with the ranching and anybody like that. You know, out of all the characters, I think Jimmy, guy that gets taped to a bronc, is my favorite, just because, you know, he did make a cowboy eventually.
Yeah.
Compared to Rip and all them that think they're really cool, you know. Jimmy's still pretty humble, and, you know.
Oh. I've only watched a few clips here and there. I've never seen a full episode of Yellowstone.
Yeah, it's not all it's made out to be as the greatest cowboy movie ever, you know.
Yeah.
Lonesome Dove is still number 1 for me.
Oh, yeah.
Along with Tombstone, I like that movie.
Yeah.
With, what is it, Sam Elliott.
Yeah, the young fellow sure had good taste, still does. And 2025 saw us lose several legendary people of the West. Joe Hanna of the great Sons of the San Joaquin was one of them, and you'll hear a piece from the program we did in his memory when the best of 2025 continues right after this. Welcome back to the best of 2025 from the Spirit of the West. Among the legendary Westerners we lost in 2025 was Joe Hanna. Actually, it was about a year ago today almost, December 26, 2024, that he rode across the Great Divide. And Joe and his son Lonnie and younger brother Jack, of course, were the fabulous group known as the Sons of the San Joaquin. And when I got the news of Joe's passing, I went through several hours of conversations I had with the boys over the years, and to honor Joe's memory, I dug out a great story about a pack trip Jack and Joe took way up in the Sierra Nevada mountains. But here's how that segment started. Now, Joe Hanna's voice is featured in this great Bob Dolan song that audiences just loved when the boys did it on stage. It was written for the 1937 Charles Starrett movie Outlaws of the Prairie, the Song of the Bandit.
He brings a token to his love. Swift as the wind he goes, high in the hills he knows she's waiting, singing Healy-o-li-pa-o-li-ay, Healy-o-li-pa-o-li-ay. Long, long ago in old Wyoming lived a maid, fair as the sweetest flower blooming in the glade. She loved a bandit bold who roamed the prairie o'er, and every night she'd listen for his call. Then far to the west his voice come ringing, riding the wild horse he come singing, Healy-o-li-pa-o-li-ay, Healy-o-li-pa-o-li-pa-o-li-ay. He brings the token to his love. Swift as the wind he goes, high in the hills he knows she's waiting, singing Healy-o-li-pa-o-li-ay, Healy-o-li-pa-o-li-ay. One day he rode away, but never to return. Danger was waiting now, his love must ever yearn. Long days and lonely nights she waited all in vain, till winter passed and summer came again. Still every night when the moon comes shining, for his song her heart was pining. Healy-oly-ip-I-oly-yay. Healy-oly-ip-I-oly-ip-I-oly-yay. He brings a token to his love. Swift as the wind he goes, high in the hills he knows she's great. Singing Healy-oly-ip-I-oly-yay. Healy-oly-ip-I-oly-yay. One night an angel brought a message from her love, told her he waited in the starry sky above. Softly she closed her eyes and bade the angel go, and then the whole world echoed to his song. For straight down a moonbeam he come riding, out of the sky on a winged horse gliding. Healy-oly-ip-I-oly-yay. Healy-oly-ip-I-oly-ip-I-oly-yay. He brings a token to his love. Swift as the wind he goes, high in the hills he knows she's waiting. Singing Healy-oly-ip-I-oly-yay. Healy-oly-ip-I-oly-yay.
Well, Joe and Jack Hanna, years ago, had set out on an ill-fated pack trip. And a while ago, Jack and Joe told me the whole story.
I got to show him up to tell this story. Because we were up in the high country, and we about 9,000 feet. We were camped there, and we're going on to go up about another 3,000 or 4,000 feet to a big lake, Woodchuck Lake. And Joe had a filly and a gelding, and she was, I always say she was kind of green broke. And I told her, he saddled her up. And I said, what are you saddling her up for? I said, ride Coley and lead her. He says, no, I gotta put the finishing touches on her, and she's never going to get broke unless. I said, well, don't do it up here at 9,000 feet. Do that at home where there's an ambulance about half a mile away. That kind of a thing. So he said, oh, Jack, you're always trying to tell me what to do. So anyway, we're going down the trail, and he's riding Sonny and leading Coley. Well, Sonny's the one, that's looking around like this, Well, he got the.
She'd never led a horse. She'd never led a horse.
Never ponied a horse.
She'd never had a rope under her tail, in other words.
And so, she was kind of paunching around, and I says, get off of her and get on Tony. I said, and he says, mind your own business. Well, what happened was, he got the lead rope under her tail. That's the story.
Man, oh man.
She went into powerful. She was a powerful animal.
But that's just the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
She turned left off the trail to buck me off.
Thank God.
I guess she was being nice, because if she'd bucked me off in the trail, I probably wouldn't be here. It was just rocks. My gelding was nipping her in the rear end, and she was acting up. And then finally, when the rope got under her tail, I guess she was just so mad that she just went to bucking. And
now, I want to establish something else. Now, you've had 3 hip operations. At this point, had you had one of those hip replacements already done?
Yes. Yes, I was riding this horse with 2 hip replacements, which were working out really fine. And that was the thing that made me a little apprehensive when I rode anymore, because I was afraid of getting bucked off with my hips the way they were. So I wasn't a normal rider at the time.
And I was worried about him. Because I didn't want him to get hurt up there, and I never expected him to get bucked off.
Well, as you heard on that program, Joe was able to climb back on his horse and ride several miles back down the trail along with Jack, and eventually get to a hospital, and after some rehab, he was back in the saddle. In 2025, the Western Spirit Band and I completed our latest album project called A Little Past Our Prime, and we sure appreciate your response to it. One of the tracks that seemed to do well was Dave Stamey's Fence Buildin' Blue. He's got a roll of rusty wire and a big old T-post driver. Had some pride, he don't know where it went. Got a pair of post hole diggers, and it's hard for him to figure how he wound up out here building fence. Well, he hired on as a rider, but they got him stretching wire. and it's cold out here, he thinks it's gonna rain. In this hard, rocky ground, he can hardly pound those T-posts down. This kind of work just goes against his grain. He's got those fence building blues. Oh, what a blow to his ego. He's wearing low-heeled shoes, and he's out here with those fence-building blues. Well, the boss says, get her done, but these old cross ties weigh a ton, and he thinks he left his pliers in the barn. He's using yellow wire stretchers, and mister, you can betcha that old Tampon bar is wearing out his arms. He's got those fence building blues. Oh, what a blow to his ego. He's wearing low-heeled shoes, and he's out here with those fence-building blues. Well, it sure ain't the Western dream. It's insulting and it's demeaning, and it's enough to make an old cowboy whine. They didn't even leave him a beer, and he quit, but there ain't nobody out here, and the truck ain't coming back till supper time. He's got those fence-building blues. Oh, what a blow to his ego. He's wearing low-heeled shoes, and he's out here with those fence-building blues. Later in 2025, you heard Dave Stamey tell a very interesting story about a ranching couple that inspired him to write an amazing song. And that's coming up and much more when the Best of 2025 continues right after this. Welcome back to the Best of 2025 from the Spirit of the West. As the winter gave way to spring, I got to the first branding of the season in early April. First time I'd heeled calves since before COVID. I took the senior mare, Cody, along, and boy, she did me proud, and that felt so good. And around that same time, I was able to connect with a guy who started in radio back in about 1959. He moved on to songwriting, singing, acting, and producing all the way from Nashville to New York. His radio name was Vic Armin, and his real name was Brian Festukian. We had a great visit, and he sent me a bunch of his fine music, and here's one that really lit up that program.
The dawn came up like thunder as he was riding home down the Gulf of Mexico, heading for the coast. It was almost daybreak, his heart began to pound. There was a cry in the cool desert air, he fell upon the ground. Durango, I hear you calling my name. Durango, I wanna ride with you again. Horse had hooves of thunder, racing with the night. High on Big Red Mountain, silhouettes in the light. Their lips were like two scarlet wings, as bright as neon lights. Felt the warmth of a midnight kiss, rode off into the night. Durango, I hear you calling my name. Durango, I wanna ride with you again. Durango, Durango.
From a radiator cap to an engine block, BCTractorParts.com is your source for whatever you need to keep that essential implement in top shape. Specializing in quality new replacement parts for agricultural tractors, Massey Ferguson, Ford, John Deere, David Brown, Case, International Harvester, Universal Deutz, Leyland, Landini, Oliver, Fiat, Alice, Zetor, White, and a lot more. If you don't have internet, just call Mark at 250-395-0960. One click or one call and the parts will be on their way. BCTractorParts.com. Gary and Marilyn Pinder have ranched in west central Alberta for a long time, and before that they lived on the famous Cormy Ranch, where Gary did everything from ride and work cattle to be in their AI tech. And they've been on a lot of our Spirit of the West cruises, and on the most recent one, Gary shared this story with Mark and Kathy.
And the wind would blow the hilltops off, and we bitched about the wind, but it cleared the tops off, and then the grass would be available to them. 2 or 3 years later, we had a really bad storm the 1st of January. So they weren't moved on to the winter field, which is rougher piece of country for a winter field. But anyway, the storm was so bad, and 2 or 3 feet of snow, whatever it was, and they had a caterpillar plowing cattle out, and there were 3 of us up in there riding one day to gather cows, and the manager was on a snowmobile scouting the back country to, kind of locate where we maybe should ride or send the caterpillar or something. Plowed out, we came out to a kind of an old main road, and the wind came up, and the snowbanks were 3 or 4 feet high from the cat plowing a trail, and the wind was blowing, and we got into there, and the manager thought, holy crap, could be disastrous. We had 3 or 4 miles to go to headquarters with this 600 or 700 cows. I don't know what was even gathered up. So he thought we'd better go back to the Hutterite colony. He was calling the shots. We went back to the Hutterite colony and stayed for the night.
So did you take cows with you, or you just left the
cows?
No,
the cows, they carried on. They would have bound
on their own?
Yeah, they probably were on down at the end of the plowed trail the next morning. So we went back and stayed at the Hutterite colony, and they put the Irishman and the native from the Blood Reserve and myself, the 3 of us were riding. So they fed us and put us up in nice facilities, just So, of course, the next morning, well, they fed us, and you've only got a certain length of time to eat. Like, there's 20 minutes, and those kids are gone, and then the men eat, and so they came and said to us, well, you don't have, if you're not done yet, well, you can carry on over into the next setting, So we did, and then we saddled our horses and carried on down the plowed trail and moved the cows. And then we fed for about 3 weeks. And then a Chinook came in and melted it all in a couple of days and turned the cows back out. And they actually would flesh up through March and calving time in April. Yeah, quite
Nothing
amazing.
ever happened.
And I mean, people will think if I told this story and they think that all you did was gather cows in the snow, but no, it was just. But there always was a winter storm.
Colter Wall released a bunch of songs that you could call pretty punchy this year, and the Cow-Calf Blue Yodel is a pretty good example.
Got my bread all rationed, and my beans cut into half. Got my bread all rationed, and my beans cut into half. Got that old cow bagging, waiting on that old cow to calve. Oh-de-lay, oh-lo, ah-dee-oh-lay. Well, we calve in the spring and we ship 'em in the fall. Well, we calve in the spring and we ship 'em in the fall. Come on, winter, find me digging through the pockets of my coverall. Oh-de-lay, oh-de-lo, oh-de-lay, tee. Got a hole in the fence, my pears are headed for town. Got a hole in the fence, my pears are all walking to town. Somebody seen 'em at the station buying tickets for that old Greyhound. Oh-de-lay, oh-lo.
All right, and there's lots more to come when the Best of 2025 continues right after this. Welcome back to the Best of 2025 from the Spirit of the West. In 2025, the great album called Keepin' It Ranchy was released by Ryan Fritz, and just about every track was true to the title. Roll 'em Out and Ride 'em High was the first track you heard.
Well, you left your home so long ago to chase a childhood dream, down the sagebrush highway to see what you could be. With a saddle and some old dry tack and just a jacket on your back, you made the miles in cowboy style with a pickup, a prayer, and a wing. Roll 'em out and ride 'em high. Fear's a mountain that you will climb. Glory's calling on the other side. Roll 'em out and ride 'em high. On a way-back ranch with just one chance to prove you have the stuff to make a working cowboy where the crew and the land is tough. There's a cold back holding a round pen that's sure to test your sand. If your heart is true, you'll pay your dues while he bucks you black and blue. Roll 'em out and ride 'em high when them broncs jump for the sky. You'll have stories if you survive. Roll 'em out, ride 'em high. So if you're young and thinking you'd like to try your hand on a big cow outfit while there's still a few of them, just set your mind, don't waste no time, but come with gritted teeth, and I'll see you on the skyline where the Mustang trails meet. Roll 'em out and ride 'em high through the hills and thick jack pine. Get that herd lined out just right. Roll 'em out and ride 'em high. Roll 'em out and ride 'em high. Learn the ropes of cowboy pride, where the West has never died. Roll 'em out and ride 'em high. Roll 'em out and ride 'em high.
It's Boxing Week with a Western Twist at Irvin Tack and Western Wear. December 26th through January 2nd, big Boxing Week savings for cowboys, cowgirls, and city folks too. Clothing, hats, and boots, 20% off. Over 130,000 square feet of selection to choose from. Plus, Irvin's Boxing Week sale features 20% off tack and $100 off saddles. That's December 26th through January 2nd at Irvin Tack and Western. Exit 305 off Highway 2 by Crossfield.
The world's greatest Western store.
After Gary Pinder had told a bunch of amazing but true stories of his cowboy and ranching career to Mark and Kathy on our most recent cruise, Marilyn reminded him of a time there was a bear prowling around their place, and Gary was pretty keen to deal with it.
Sort of the funny part of I was sitting there in my undershorts watching the hockey game. Did I say that? Or I told you that?
I don't know if it was a hockey game, but yeah.
Anyway, so, and sock feet. But I'm in my sock feet, and I'm loping across the driveway there in the gravel in my underwear. And I thought, I never even noticed that the gravel was sharp on my sock, my sock feet. You know, that's how. So I'm out at the road in my underwear there, and I thought if somebody came by, and Marilyn thought, but I thought again then about this granddaughter of ours that's 5 years old, quiet as, didn't say much, didn't. And two cars went by one day together, and she said, "Oh, rush hour," she said. So I thought, well,
we're on a very busy, or a very quiet,
it's pretty quiet road. So out there in my underwear on by the road with my rifle, well, they'd have thought, what the hell?
I really wanted to take a photo, but I thought if he did that to me, I would kill him.
There's that crazy old Gary standing out there again.
Yeah, anyway, we probably told you that. But you see, if we stay here long enough, you'll hear it all 3 times. So,
so when you walk back across the gravel, did it hurt?
I probably I could have stayed on the grass, like there is lawn, and you make a quarter up to the garage. And
Brett Kessel had a pretty busy year in 2025. It seemed he was showing up everywhere, but he still found time to write more good songs. This one created quite a sensation when the great YouTube video was released with closed captions, and you even got to see Brett riding a horse.
Inside the lines, don't go past that trespass sign. Fear ain't good at letting loose, like heavy chains around your boots. Worrying's a waste of your time. So love till you're breathless and live kinda reckless. When the world puts up fences, bust down the gate, 'cause you can't rip the wall out of a Mustang. pages. Freedom's contagious, yeah, that's truth. 'Cause you can't rope the wild out of a Mustang. You can't tie an anchor to a freight train. No, you can't take the wind out of a hurricane till it's done. So baby, let your heart loose, dream it if you want to. Ride it like you're chasing the sun. Let your horses run. Can't tie an anchor to a freight train, and you can't take the wind out of a hurricane till it's done. So baby, let your heart loose, dream it if you want to. Ride it like you're chasing the sun. Let your horses run.
Annie and Elgar Grindy made the trip to Medicine Hat for our Saturday night show at the big gathering in September, and it was sure great to see them. They've cruised with us many times, and here's a bit of what they told Mark and Kathy on our most recent voyage.
We had just purchased our first side-by-side, I believe, and it was late in the year. It was the last two calves had hit the ground, and he said, "Oh, we got to go out and tag them." So instead of her jumping in the side-by-side, which I expected her to do, she hopped on one of the quads and took off out there. Okay, I'd follow with the side-by-side. I had tagging equipment and everything with me, and we went down there, and no problem. I hooked the first calf. I hopped out, and she thought she was going to help me a whole lot. She reached in and grabbed the second calf and stepped out behind her quad, and I just seen it from a distance because I was busy with my calf. Here, Mama Cow didn't like her at all. Oh. Hit her head on, square right in the center of the chest, threw her back about 20 feet, ran right over top of her, turned around and ran right back. And I looked at this and I thought, oh boy, my wife's in trouble. I hope there's no internal injuries. I hope she hasn't been stepped on. I hope she survives. And meanwhile, I just quickly tagged my calf and took off, and I went over to her place where she was hit. And so I asked her, "Are you okay?" She looks up and, "What happened?" I said, "You just lay there. I want to find your glasses." I found her glasses. Next question, she says, "What happened?" "You just had a concussion. You just sit still. I'm putting you in the side-by-side, taking you back to the yard." "No, what happened?" All the way home. Then she get home. I put her in the bedroom and turned the lights down. So I said, "Just relax. If there's nothing hurting inside, you've had a bad concussion." "What happened?" She phones the neighbors. The neighbors come over. The daughter comes home from the city. "What happened?" "Take her to the hospital." "Yes, she had a concussion." But that little bump on the head that cow hit her actually rattled her cage. And she was having memory issues before that. Now she can remember everything. So something got reconnected up there.
It scrambled things the right way?
Scrambled things the right way. Medically, I would not recommend it.
Yeah, right.
You won't want to miss the next segment. Stay tuned as the Best of 2025 continues right after this. Welcome back to the Best of 2025 from the Spirit of the West. Jessica O'Neill has written a book called She Rides Wild Horses. It's the story of the adversity that she's dealt with, and there's been a lot of it in her life. And in December, you heard this beautiful version of Bob Nolan's classic song from Jessica and her group, the Never Sweat Players.
All day I faced a barren waste without the taste of water. Oh, Dan and I
Ornery Old Woman might seem like an odd title for a romantic song about a long-time ranching couple, but if you were listening last fall, you heard Dave Stamey explain what inspired him to write it.
Years ago, I was traveling west from Lewistown, Montana, toward Columbia Falls, and way out there in that ranching country, way out there in the middle of nowhere. And I was passing by this ranch, and this couple had come out of a pasture, had driven their pickup truck out of a pasture, and the old rancher was out closing the wire gate, and they were both dressed up for town. They were headed to town, wherever town happened to be, quite a ways away, I think. And but he had to check this pasture before they went, and they were probably in their late 70s, early 80s. This couple, and I didn't think too much about it. I just kept going where I was going, and then a few months later, I was back up in Montana, and I was doing playing for a wedding reception in Lavina. And just after the wedding and before I started playing, we were having the dinner there, the reception dinner, and I looked over, and it wasn't the same couple, but it could have been. It could have been, and they both looked like they were cut out of the same side of beef, same side of leather, rather. And they were in their early 80s probably, and they were all dressed up, sitting at a table next to each other, man and woman. And they looked like they were made out of harness leather, and they were all dressed up in there. He had his good hat on, and she had a nice dress on, and very stern looking, not smiling or anything, not looking at each other. They were holding hands. And I thought, yeah, okay.
You're an ornery old woman and hard as an ironwood tree. You never open your mouth except to criticize me. But you've worked like a mule for 43 years, driving the baler and greasing the gears, and you know every inch of these mountains. And I'll never please you, I've give up a long time ago. How we managed to hold on, I'll never know. Through winters and droughts and everything else, you've never give a single thought to yourself, and you always were the one damn thing I could count on. And I ain't got the words for what I'm trying to say. We never were much for talking anyway. And we're joined at the hip, and there's no place that I'd rather be than standing right here with you, standing by me. You say I'm too hard on our boys, but I don't agree. I ain't as hard on them as life's gonna be. And you harp on me that I don't like change, and soon enough they'll take over the reins. And if they ain't ready, this place will sink like a stone. Sometimes you make me so mad I can't sit down. That's when I climb in my truck and head off towards town. And I argue with you, though you ain't even there, vetting my spleen in the open air. Then pretty soon I turn around and drive back home. and I ain't got the words for what I'm trying to say. We never were much for talking anyway. We're joined at the hip, and there's no place that I'd rather be than standing right here with you, standing by me. Tomorrow we'll gather those steers from off the south end. They've grazed it all down, it's time that we brought them in. Now supper's long over and you're sitting there, falling asleep in that old leather chair. You never could stay up late at all. I touch your hand to tell you it's time for bed. You nod and get up without a word being said. Together we close up the house for the night. I pause a moment before I shut off the light, and then I turn and follow you down the hall. And I ain't got the words for what I'm trying to say. We never were much for talking anyway. We're joined at the hip, and there's no place that I'd rather be than standing right here with you, standing by me. Standing right here with you, standing by me.
Okay, now, kind of on the same subject, I guess. Here's Frank Gleason.
On the back of a bobsled way down by the cowshed, I told her I loved her one day. She said, you go drop dead and let's get the cows fed. Romance, it can wait, don't you see? Well, I told her I loved her more than that little bull calf that was born there last night in the snow. And she said, no way, honey, you couldn't pay enough money. The answer to you is still no. Well, I asked why she chooses old cows over me, because I wanted to know, yes, in vain. She said, you sit down before you go to town, and I'm just going to try to explain. I don't have to cook and wash for those cows, and I don't have to answer the phone. They just eat their hay and go on their way, and every fall they pay off the bank loan. So it's late in the evening, I'm feeling romantic. I reach out for my better half. She said, stop acting squirrely, we're getting up early. The old milk cow's having her calf. So if you city folks think romancing is tough, and your girlfriend or your wife don't share in your charms, leave those city lights and drive out some night and try making love down on the farm.
So that wraps it up for 2025, and I hope you can join us right here next week as we roll into 2026. Until then, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.